Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Tesseract, written by Graveyard Operations. The sterile room again. Everything was so white. Everything was so clean. The fluorescent light that silently hummed above our heads reflected off the pristine white tile floors and the plastic tops of our desks. The room was dead silent. Even the dozen or so people who were with me here didn't make a sound. These people were unfamiliar, different from the groups I had been placed with in the past week of this nightmare. That's what it was. It was a nightmare. It was always a nightmare. A recruiting nightmare, actually. I have the ability to lucid dream. The attention of the assortment of faces and people all turned to the masculine voice who spoke. My train of thought interrupted as a man in a pristine, black, finely tailored suit entered through what appeared to be nowhere. His hair was slicked back, styled with a haircut that seemed to be as expensive as the suit he was wearing and just as black. A pair of circular glasses rested lazily on his nose, facial features stern, yet soft enough to suggest youth. The man barely looked to be 30 years old, just blossoming into true adulthood. That is the phenomena precisely 6 of the 14 people in this room are thinking right now. An amused scoff escaped his nose as he moved over to the podium towards the front of the room, where each of us were facing at our desks. It was always the same, these recurring nightmares. I would wake up sitting in this room with no windows or doors. The room was stark white, the white of a gallon bottle of bleach. The walls seemed to be made of simple plaster, the floor a polished tile, shimmering in the way 2 bright fluorescent lights from above. The desks would match said reflective tile, only adding to the intrusive brightness from my groggy companions and I. Every age group, every race, every ethnic group was present. If not present today, they were present before. Everyone, from teenagers to the elderly. Our attire always starkly contrasted the room itself. Most of us were in pajamas. Embarrassingly enough, more than one of us was stark naked. No one seemed to pay any mind to the nudity, however, despite one of the older men in the room being one. I confess, my right eye twitched just a tad as I tried my absolute best to keep my attention fixed on the well-dressed, olive-skinned, black-haired man standing behind the reflective white podium before us. Allow me to introduce myself and apologize for the past week of trials and tribulations you've all gone through in your test groups. He cleared his throat. My name is William Garrott. I am a director of organization currently putting you through these paces. Each and every one of you here possess a talent not common amongst the general population. That talent is lucid dreaming. So, you're saying you're Leonardo DiCaprio or something? Are you going further into a dream or something? One of the younger members of the attending class chimed in, causing a chuckle out of most of us, myself included. Even Mr. Garrott seemed to chuckle, amused. He raised a hand, signaling all of us to pipe down so that he could speak again. I realize the nature of this congregation may be a bit unsettling, or even silly to most of you. I understand the pop culture ramifications of this impromptu interview. Rest assured, however, the dreaming aspect of our congregation is only the basic qualification for why my organization is interested in you all. Think of it as a building block for what you represent. William reassured in his deep, classy New England voice, a pleasant enough smile on his lips. The organization I represent is known as the Bureau of Dimensional Intelligence, or rather BDI for short. This organization has existed in many names and many titles over its 6-century-long tenure. 6 centuries? An older woman spoke, her face fretful, unkempt curly grey hair spilling over the sides of her head down to her shoulders and back. She was clad in an adorable pink pajamas with cartoon kittens sprawled across her matching top and pants. What's the exact year? She asked. Presently, or at the organization's funding, presently, it is the 7th of December, 2020, at 0200 hours on the east coast of the United States. Precisely. It is 0249. Oh, now it is 0250. The organization was founded in 1478 AD, in Nice, France. William replied, my eyebrows knit as I leaned forward in my seat, the desk shifting with my new posture. How do you know the time? I asked. This is a dream, right? It is impossible to know the exact time in a dream. It's one of the ways I know if I'm dreaming or not. Dates and times never match well. What's the time right now? My accusatory tone must have amused Mr. Garrett, as an ear-to-ear grin appeared on his lips. 02:51 on the east coast of the United States, miss, he answered. However, that is incorrect question to be asking yourself right now. The time matters little, especially in a place like this. In fact, only one person in this whole room has asked themselves the question that matters most of all. A question I will allow for precisely 90 seconds for all of you to ponder before continuing. That question is, if this room has no doors or windows, how did I get in? I lifted an eyebrow, taking the time to allow my chocolate-brown eyes to peer around the room. The stark white walls didn't have any windows, nor did they have any doors. My eyebrows didn't thought. How did this man get in? Even weirder, how come none of us questioned him suddenly appearing? How come he was wearing a suit and not pajamas like the rest of us? I thought I was terribly clever, though, and I grinned to match Mr. Garrett's own form to my face. I laced my fingers together, black nails clashing with my gaunt, pale skin, while I crossed one leg over the other. Because you're not real. You're a figment of my imagination, I chimed in smugly. My smug demeanor, however, was washed away by the hearty guffaw Mr. Garrett replied. Well, valid theory, and a potent one to boot. In any other circumstances, you would be correct. I can assure you, however, that I am not a manifestation of your subconscious, though I am flattered that you would think of me as something your mind would conjure of its own devices. I am quite real, and I am quite aware of your thought process, Katie. I am quite aware of all your thought processes, names, life stories, families, addresses, and mental instabilities, he mused. My eyes went wide. He knew my name. That was, nothing is impossible, Katie and Marcus. He nodded to the dark-skinned man sitting next to me, the same perplexed expression plastered on his face as was my own. Which is precisely why I gathered you all here tonight. The last class my organization is doing this year for potential recruits. The BDI has a need for those who can operate outside the bounds of common human psyche. Being able to lucid dream is going a good start. Being able to adapt while not in control of said lucid dream is even more profound. Thus, before we begin with the final test, I will allow for those of you who wish not to proceed to leave. He nods to the class. I understand the past week of your testing has been terribly haunting for some of you. You made me watch my parents die in a house fire, Marcus answered, the bald, middle-aged man growing furious, nose wrinkled. You made me watch! I couldn't wake up, and I always can make myself wake up from nightmares. You made me hear them scream. If I wasn't so sure getting out of this desk and knocking your fecking teeth in would be a waste of time, you'd be on the fecking ground. I'm not interested in joining your goddamn organization, you fecking monster. I just want to know why. Why the feck are you torturing us? The jovial, pleasant demeanor of William shifted at Marcus's accusation. The aggression Marcus possessed seemed to shift as William's two blue eyes peered into the large, angry man's soul. Marcus sank into his seat, as if a child again. The fluorescent lights almost dimmed at how upset William seemed to be. Placing his index finger and thumb over the frame of his glasses, William pushed them up the bridge of his nose and sighed. It would be a waste of time, Marcus, William calmly confirmed. The answer to your question is simple enough, however. Should you join our organization, should you choose to appear beyond these white walls and to both the lucid dream and waking world, what you will see will shake the very fabric of your sense of self. It is that sense of self that we are attacking. Unfortunately, that requires a tolerance to witnessing the most deranged acts humanly possible. We are not openly malicious, Marcus, but our agents must be capable of a mental fortitude to cope with trauma. Watching your loving parents die for a week straight, over and over, is one of the most barbaric methods we have for testing your resolve. Your presence here, now, is proof that you are capable of withstanding the onslaught. Perhaps you should ask some of the others in this room now. Oh, it appears many have left during my ranting. I blinked, looking around the room. 3 people. Out of the 14 people that were here, only 3 people were left. Goosebumps ran up my arms and down my back. I didn't even notice they left. It was just Marcus, that older woman from before, and myself. Everyone else just vanished. I reflexively swallowed down my stomach, sinking low into my seat. Just like Marcus had, the older woman in the pink kitty pajamas wrung her hands together nervously as she watched both of us instead of William. Her attention was soothing in a way, as if my own grandma was looking out for me as our most demonic captor fixed his attention on Marcus. "You're a sick Feck," Marcus barked, albeit meekly, causing William to laugh, shrugging his shoulders in defeat. "I suppose so. I am forced to be with potential recruits. It is disappointing that only 3 of you chose to stay, but I suppose I knew that from the start. It is better than last year's class. None chose to remain in that collective," he confessed. "I'm shocked, however, you didn't bother asking yourself what your fellow students went through. I can assure you that you were not alone in your trials and tribulations." The old woman and I seemed to look down in unison. My eyes closed at the memories of the torture flooded back. Like clockwork, as I began to recall from my own torture at the hands of this bureau, I could hear the buzzing all around. I brushed my long blue and violet hair behind an ear as I slowly began to remember the agony of the hornets stinging me. I'm very allergic to bees. When I was 8, I was put in an emergency room because my throat was swelling up. A week straight of being in a damn room only to have a swarm of hornets cover me, stinging me, unable to wake myself up as my throat began to close and I couldn't breathe. I would have cried right there if I didn't think William would get some sort of sick satisfaction from my suffering. "I am many things, Miss Home, but I am not a sadist," William answered my train of thought, walking over to my desk and placing hands on it. The man's very aura was imposing. "I take no pleasure in the suffering of this hell week for potential recruits. As I said, it is necessary so that we can gauge your mental fortitude. Dr. McCormick over there had to watch her entire wing of the hospital die. Marcus had to watch his parents burn to death. You had to experience the agony like none other. I, personally, all of those years ago when I went through this, had to watch my wife wither away into dust in my arms. All of our individual suffering is irrelevant when it comes to the threats that we face in the Bureau," William responded. Marcus grunted, scowling, rising up from his desk to stare accusingly at William. Despite the gravity of our discussion, the only thing I thought of as the dark-skinned, well-toned, incredibly attractive man stood next to me was how incredibly naked he was. To make the terrible pun, it somewhat took the sting out of all of this. "Yeah? You don't think I see enough of that crap as a firefighter? You don't think I don't beat myself up enough about the folk I don't save? You had to make it my parents. Feck you, and feck your damn company," Marcus barked. Mr. Garrett looked over at the man in distaste. "Your response is disappointing, but not unexpected," William retorted, monotone, unflinching, despite Marcus towering at least a foot over him. "Though I suppose I know why you specifically are here, Marcus. You say feck my company, but you still can't help but shake the one thought that is blooming in each of your minds. That thought being, if that hell was only training, what was the training for? That I can show you. However, first of all, I would welcome all 3 of you to a proper in-person interview in 1 week's time. You'll instinctively know the address to go to. You'll instinctively know the time to attend. None of you will be late," William replied, moving back over to his podium, turning to face each of us with a vicious smile. "The Bureau's responsibilities extend far beyond your own personal suffering. The Bureau is humanity's contribution to the needs of society far beyond normal comprehension. For you see, my future agents," William trailed off, snapping his fingers. Just like that, the stark white walls seemed to fade away, and before us, the vastness of an unknown cosmos stretched before us. No ceiling, no walls, just a door, desks, and a podium remained. Behind William spiraled a supermassive black hole of a galaxy, with tendrils of a radiant power expanding out as if to grasp each and every one of us. Entire arms of a spiral galaxy spun around us as each of us looked on in wonder. Every living organism in the cosmos, in this dimension, in our universe experiencing itself. We are the universe aware of its own experience. We are the universe's lucid dreaming. We are the aspect of the universe's dream absolutely aware of its own existence. We do not stare simply into the void. We are the void looking in on itself and beyond to those who dare to. 22 species of intelligent organisms are known to exist in this galaxy alone, and none of them, like humanity, can see what we can see. Humanity alone stands apart to see what horrors lay beyond the third dimension. They see only the face of the Tesseract. We see... With that, the galaxy, the stars, and all the beauty of the cosmos seemed to fall away from us. An insidious blackness appeared, an abyss of emptiness that I cannot even begin to put into words. The buzzing of insects appeared in my ears again, and I began to scream. I couldn't help myself from screaming. The inky blackness cascaded around our feet as the buzzing only grew even louder. Whispers of an insidious nature echoed throughout the buzzing, whispering my name, whispering my life in an instant. Every bit of my 22 years of life was spoken to me at once. Every regret, every fear, every hope burned. I screamed. We all screamed. Each one of us likely hearing our own tragedies laid out before us as the floor of the room, as well as our feet, became consumed with the darkness. Eyes, dark, violet slits in the vast abyss of emptiness, appeared to look down at us as more and more of our small little plot of sanity was choked up by the dense blackness. I couldn't see anyone anymore. I couldn't see Dr. McCormick. I couldn't see Marcus. I could only barely see William, who stood there, unimpressed by the void's gesture. His attention seemed fixed on me, and, slowly, as more and more of myself seemed to sink into the inky darkness that surrounded us, he began to laugh. At least, I believe he started to laugh. All I could hear was that damn buzzing. "Answer the phone, Katie!" "What?" I called out, reaching a hand out for him desperately, as his desk I sat at fell away from under me while I sank lower and lower into the void. "Your phone's ringing!" "What are you talking about?" I called out. "Help us!" I begged just as my head became consumed and I felt myself sinking lower and lower into that terrible, cold emptiness around us. I screamed and then screamed more, only to be met by that fierce buzzing. I shot up out of my sleep, my hair an absolute mess as I breathed heavily. Once again, I was in my crappy apartment. The darkness of my room was a pleasant surprise compared to that swallowing abyss that I had just experienced. It took me more than a few minutes for my heart to slow down and my panting to slow enough to realize that it was, in fact, just a dream. I groaned as grogginess and awareness creeped back into my mind. The buzzing was my phone as it vibrated on my nightstand, which rested right next to my bed. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes, peering at the screen. Scam Likely, my biggest fan. Scam Likely must have called at least twice a day. They didn't often call at 03:02 in the morning. Chills ran down my spine. "Answer the phone, Katie," I repeated to myself, stretching out a shaking hand to my phone and sliding the answer button out, putting it to my ear. Hello?" I asked. "Caitlin home?" A woman's voice on the other end asked. "Yeah, do you have any idea what time it is? Why are you calling?" "Welcome to the Bureau of Dimensional Intelligence. We'll see you in a week." Click. I pulled my phone away from my ear, staring at it in horror, a hand over my mouth, horrified. It was real. This is all real. Oh, crap. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barky, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.